Today's episode is going to be about mining in the area. 170,000 people were employed as miners.
Makes a noise.
But we do have a bit of information on the last living pit pony, I think.
Is all of this collection of books, which come from Sedgefield RDC and Trimdon Colliery clearance area.
In 1914, there were 70,000.
So we'll divert the funding there and try to get the people to move there to boost the economy in those areas.
They were born and bred basically for that job.
I'm going to say it's another polo pony.
No, it's a pit pony.
So women were originally did go down the mines in the 1800s. This was stopped eventually in 1842.
Hi, welcome back to What's the Story, where we're talking about Durham history based on what we can find here in the archives at the Story. Today's episode is going to be about mining in the area and all of the different ways that changed and kind of affected daily life. To start, I was wondering if anybody had any family who were miners, just kind of get an idea of.
Definitely some great-grandparents or great-great-grandparents or great-great.
Yeah.
No, my granddad, he was an electrician in the mines, and he only went down once, but his job was still, I think, very important because he lit the way for all the mining people to, see the way in and out. So, yeah.
My great-granddad was in the mines, but I don't really know anything about it.
Yeah.
To be honest.
My family were kind of an exception to the rule because my granddad was from Newcastle, so it was all shipyards rather than mines. But we've got some numbers for everybody. So in the early 20th century was kind of when the industry peaked in the area. So in 1913, there were 304 pits locally, and 170,000 people were employed as miners. The industry kind of faced a decline during World War I and II, and then pits started to close in the 50s and 60s, leading up to the kind of final pit was shut in 1994 after the strikes and closures of the 80s.
We all know about that because I'm assuming, well, some of us did Billy Elliot in secondary school. In terms of other stats to do with the mines, there were lots of pit ponies. In 1914, there were 70,000 pit ponies, each working in various different mines in England. But by the time we got around to 1954, there were only 13,000 because of all the strikes and stuff, and I imagine some health and safety regulations probably.
So what actually was a pit pony? What was their job in the mines?
So basically, a pit pony was stationed usually in the larger bits of the mines because obviously the mines could get quite cramped and small, but they were ponies that were bred to be quite big and strong so that they could take the tubs from the underground back up to the surface, usually with coal or a little bit maybe stuff we didn't need but could get out of the way. And they were sort of situated where the tracks were. So there were train tracks in the entire mine to obviously move the coal from the miners' place and put it all the way to the ponies. And they were usually situated there so that it made it easier to haul them back up to the surface.
I think there was apparently a lot of strict rules to do with the pit ponies, but I'm not quite sure how strictly they were carried out.
Yeah.
My pit ponies did have a really hard job, I'd say, because, they were born and bred basically for that job, but they had to haul carts of coal in and out of the mines and maybe also some rubble and other rubbish that we didn't use so that there could be more space in the mines. But we do have a bit of information on the last living pit pony, I think. So this is Pip, the pit pony. He was born in 1974 and he began work in Marley Hill Colliery and then moved to Sacriston Colliery where he worked until 1985. From there, he was moved to Beamish, which we all know. But he died in 2009, aged 35, which is a great age for a pony, mind.
Yeah.
He lived a good long life.
Especially for being down in the mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You might have noticed that the table is a bit busier than usual. We've got some items to share from the story. I don't know if you want to start.
Yeah, I'll start. So this is a football ratchet, and you spin it around. Makes a noise. There were lots of ways of waking miners up, such as shooting, I think they were called pea shooters?
Yeah,
I don't
sounds
remember.
about
Oh,
right.
God, I forgot their name. They had a big stick, and they'd fire stuff out of it to hit the windows
Yeah, pea
to
shooters.
wake the miners up. Unfortunately, we don't have one. I do think it might be a bit too long for the table.
Probably.
Quite luckily. We've got this bigger one, which I'm not going to spin, because last time I did, I'm pretty sure it almost broke. Not very interested in that. But my main piece here is all of this collection of books, which come from Sedgefield RDC and Trimdon Colliery clearance area. And I thought that linked quite nicely into the category D towns and villages. So in 1951, there was this big report out in the area, and they'd label villages from A, B, C, and D. And if you were a category D village, you would get no more economic funding to the area, because they deemed there was no more, how do you say it? Opportunity for economic development, that's it. There was no more, they didn't think you were going to progress anymore.
But
So they'd cut funding, yeah.
But how are you going to progress if you have no funding?
You've
That's the
discovered the,
point.
problem.
You've discovered one of the key issues here. Yeah, so they'd think, right, they're not growing at a rate, and there's these other places that are growing much faster, so we'll divert the funding there and try to get the people to move there to boost the economy in those areas. See Newton Aycliffe, which is a new town.
Classic.
I'm not going to go into my opinions on Newton Aycliffe. So,
Sorry if you're from Newton Aycliffe.
so A, B, C, D. D, no more economic funding. And they'd get people to move out of these areas, and they'd, try demolish the area. Complete demolition of these towns was rare, but it did happen on some occasions. I know Witton Park and Dunstan, I think it was called.
Yeah.
Lots of towns everywhere with categories, and some of them are still going today. Some of them actually managed to power through community. However, others unfortunately have slipped into major economic decline and aren't quite here with us. Although I do wish there were some other towns that would be classed as category D.
What were the other categories? What happened to those? Like A, B, and C?
A was they thought there would be like really good economic development in the areas, so they'd get the majority of the funding. B, they believed there was some economic development that could still go on. C, you've just barely cut the grade. We're going to let you continue due to some level of importance in the area. And D, they don't think you're worth anything, which was mainly these mining colliery areas, because as the community declined and the income from them declined, they weren't in the best conditions. Some of the houses weren't that good. I think I can find some in here. Actually,
Yeah,
it's
so
just, this is the wrong one. This is all black pages.
That's
I
that's
apologise.
Sedgefield.
Yeah, this is several, yeah, dark. Let's try to spin that around. These are the kind of conditions that you may be able to find in the areas which are classed as category D, falling apart a little bit. They don't look that bad, but some of them are quite literally. See, this one here doesn't look horrible, and others kind of resemble sheds. So apology if you live in a house that looks like that.
Like me.
Has anyone else got any items they'd like to share?
Well, I had this book, which was a songbook with a few mining songs. One was the Keel Row, which I think is one of the more famous mining songs. It's the keels were like a type of boat that carried that transported the coal down the River Tyne, and that's where the song came from. It's quite an old song. I think it's said that it might have been first written down in the 1700s, but it said it could be even older than that because of just mining traditions and things like that. I think lots of these songs were quite important to miners because it's quite dark and it's really horrible conditions down the mine in some places, I guess. And so it might be quite nice to have something that kind of brings all the miners together, so like songs and things like that. So I thought that was quite nice.
Sorry, speaking of songs, we were doing some research and we found these books of old poems and songs that were written by wives and children during some of these strikes in the 80s. I think Erin has one to share.
There, some of them get quite colourful about the Prime Minister at the time. So we've avoided some of them because neutrality. But I've got one here called The Greengrocer's Daughter. Why does Thatcher call us yobs when all we want is our jobs? Surely it's plain enough to see what our men want to be. McGregor's the one she is backing. It's him and her who want sacking. The violence, they say, is our lads' fault. It's the coppers who are doing the assault. No one else could go through with what you lads have had to do. Maggie thinks we've had enough. Who is she trying to bluff? She calls us the enemy within, but by God she cannot win. She calls us names that she should not do. She's supposed to be Prime Minister to me and you. She was only a greengrocer's daughter. I wonder if he went out and bought her. We've been robbed with our jobs. It's the Tory lot who are the yobs. We want things as they were. So don't take advice from her. We won't give in, we shall not bend. We'll go on fighting till the end. She's so determined to close our pits. Watch out, you're next on her list. And that's by Linda Smith. She was from Easington Colliery. Just casually name-dropping that there.
So just from what we've been talking about and what we've looked into, do you want to talk a little bit about kind of the average day for miners, like what the day-to-day would have consisted of?
All right. I've just quickly ran and grabbed a pickaxe head, which surprisingly isn't that heavy, but it's not exactly as it would be. Pretty sure this is dulled with age, bit rusty. Does rust add weight? Because
I don't think it makes much
It
difference.
oxidizes. Does that mean some of the oxygen goes into the air?
No oxygen goes under. It's probably heavier, actually. Although I do think bits are missing. It's a bit dulled at the edge. I'll just pass that round there. So with the extra bit on top, that would have been quite heavy to swing, so most people would be quite tired coming out of the mine, crawling down there in the dark, using sometimes a candle. Of course, later on you'd have lights, Pretty much only thing you could do to protect yourself
One of these
is a helmet.
cardboard
Or
helmets.
earlier on, it would have been flat caps, which are quite prominent in Yorkshire culture, Sheffield, that kind of area still today. However, for a very brief time, they had compressed cardboard, which is definitely going to help if there's a rock collapse, which was not actually the point of it. It would protect your head if you were going... I look very silly in this hat. I'm very proud of
the
myself.
rest of the episode.
Incredible. Sorry.
Right. This was mainly to protect you as you were crawling along, to ensure that you didn't damage yourself, as working in the mines was probably bad enough as it was without brain damage. Black lung, asbestos, depending on where you were, which they gave the children for lots of times.
Yeah, carbon monoxide.
They used canaries for, actually.
Yes.
Would anyone like to talk about that?
Yes, I'll talk about the canaries. So if there was a sudden sort of influx of CO, then the canaries would start singing, I think, but they'd also faint and collapse. And if your canary fainted and collapsed, that meant that you had to get out of there right now.
Yeah.
But they also had little canary resuscitation machines, so they lived. Yay!
No, we also have here, we have the tokens that would have been used down the mines. So every miner was given 2 of these. The first would be kind of hung up on the board at the beginning of the day when they went down the mines. And the second would be kept on your person, kind of like a dog tag. And the point of them was so that they knew, first of all, how many people in the mines and whether anybody was left down there at the end of the day so they could go find them. But keeping one on your person, like dog tags, would have been used in case of a disaster, a collapse, anything like that, to help identify the miners' bodies so they knew who everybody was.
I think also, if a disaster did happen, they'd know who was down in the mine as well.
I think we've got some, are they paintings, drawings, pictures?
Yeah, so I had a look at a few of Tom Lamb's work. So he went down the mine at age 14 in 1942. And I think he stayed down there for another 27 years. I mean, didn't stay in the mine now 27 years.
Just lived there.
Yeah. But he did a lot of sketching and down the mine, which was quite unique then. And once he'd done that, he would take his sketches back and paint them. And a lot of his paintings, they really show what mining was like and what it was like to actually be down there, because he knew what it was like. He had that experience. So it's quite nice to see some of the more casual scenes of miners having a little snack break or something, which is quite funny. But it's also Another thing I found out while I was looking at the snack break painting was that some miners actually struggled to digest because they were eating in like cramped positions or bending over. So it was sometimes they had issues with like digesting and stuff because of the way they were eating down the mine.
Yeah, that reminds me a little bit of the soap that they use.
Yeah.
We've all smelled it. I think it's still invading me now. It was really, really strong, sort of a peppery metallic sensation. But the miners basically used it to get the coal off them, but it had to be really strong because obviously the coal,
Yeah.
very strong. Yeah. So I think miners, other than being down in the mines, led pretty average lives. They had wives, they had children, and their wives would usually stay up on the surface. They would do stuff to help with the mines sometimes, but mostly they'd cook for the miners, they'd clean for the miners. All the fun stuff that women did in the era. But sometimes they were just as important as men, because what are you if you don't come home to a nice cooked tea after going in the mines? So, yeah.
So women were originally did go down the mines in the 1800s. This was stopped eventually in 1842, and there was a Miners' Act that stopped women and girls going down the mine. They weren't allowed at all, and boys under the age of 10 were also not allowed. This actually, I think, increased the amount of pit ponies that were used, because now you were taking away quite a lot of the people who worked down the mine. So the pit ponies were then used for some of the jobs, like pulling the tubs and things like that had because the women had been taken out, the pit ponies kind of stepped in to take that role. But I think some women or worked on the top, like you said earlier, and some unfortunately worked illegally in the mines, even though the mine owners knew about it, which is quite sad.
Yeah. I mean, we've always been doing that.
Yeah.
Even in the war, when they restricted women and boys going to war, they still lied about their age and gender. And
Yeah.
went anyway. Probably because they felt that it was their duty to king and country. Yeah.
Speaking of women, I will be completely upfront, I have not fact-checked this, but I was told once at a different museum that miners were actually, a lot of them were quite supportive of the suffragette movement when it was happening, because suffragettes, part of the reason women weren't allowed to vote was because they weren't allowed to own property. And miners at the time also often wouldn't have owned their own houses, they wouldn't have owned property. So women being given the right to vote kind of helped pave the way for miners to have the same rights as well. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah. I'm not sure how correct it is, but I thought I'd share.
That kind of makes sense, considering that originally voting was for the middle class. Yeah. And obviously I think the miners probably would have been working class.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So something quite interesting about mining and mining communities is that miners were not required to join the world. They weren't conscripted because they were an exempt group. They weren't involved in that. So because they were needed at home to help get the fuel for all of the ships, etc. Yeah. So we were doing some research separately to this into local war memorials, and a lot of the names on this list, when you look them up in the census, they are nearly all miners. They all worked in the mines. Kind of this idea of you can go down the mines or you can become a soldier and you can go off and be a hero and go on an adventure, which was obviously the attitude that was held by a lot of people at the time. So we were wondering, if you were given the option, what do you think you would do? Would you stay and go down the mines, or would you go off to war?
I think I'd stay in the mines, to be honest. I probably wouldn't do very well in a sort of war environment with the loud noises and gunfire everywhere. I mean, nobody would.
Yeah.
But, but so, I understand that the mine is quite claustrophobic, but sometimes I like claustrophobia. It just feels cozy. Probably not the mine. There we are. The mine, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Both sound really tough, I think. I guess if going to war would be something different if mining was a little bit boring or slow or the same kind of every day. But I think I'd probably prefer to just stick with what I knew. Yeah, if mining was what I knew.
So I feel like for some reason mining is less dangerous. And
Yeah,
I know
like,
there's still
it's-
like collapses and accidents
Yeah.
and stuff, but they're not like frequent on a
I
daily
feel like
basis.
there's kind of the element of like mining is the danger you know, whereas if you go off to war, it's the first time you've ever been there. It's all these
Yeah.
new, altogether terrifying ways to die. Yay!
Yeah.
So yeah, it would definitely be a very different experience to mining. Have any thoughts?
I'd say I'd go down the mines, but the whole World War One, especially, wasn't as dangerous as it's usually depicted. I think 65% of people who went in the early part of the war did actually make it back. So it's not that everyone who went early's gone over the top and died that it's usually portrayed as. However, if I had to choose between metal being shot at me and rocks falling on me, I know which one would be quicker. I'll put it this way. Actually, no, there are lots of stories of people getting trapped in the mines for days, having to eat their candles and lick water off the walls. But there's also stories of people being trapped in no man's land for days.
I know.
I'll stay in the mine.
Yeah.
I think less chance. Actually, no, same chance of being blown up. They're a lot more similar than I thought they'd be.
They are.
Yeah, they're quite. Yeah.
I think I had this. I know you said 65% of the people who went in the early ones. I think I heard the overall figure was somewhere in the 80-90%. Probably. I don't
One of our
remember.
two's right. One of them.
One of the two.
Always accurate in our statistics. So I believe you have a little quiz for us.
We're doing the game. We're doing the game. Welcome everyone to Pony or Phony. So this is a game where I have researched names of ponies on the internet. Some from the archives here, some from Wales, and some from Nottinghamshire. So thank you particularly to Nottinghamshire. A lot of them came from there. So we're going to decide whether they are actual pit ponies or they are names that I've just made up. So we're going to start with, we're just going to do round the table again. Yeah. So Byron.
As in, Lord Byron.
As
the
in Lord
poet?
Byron, yes.
Right, the one who I have to do in GCSE?
Yes.
Right.
Me too, don't worry about that. I do too.
Going to say that probably sounds. That sounds like a real pit pony. Someone call it
Was a
Byron.
pony, yes. Was a pony. Raja.
See, that sounds like a good pony name, but I'm not sure it would be a pit pony name. I feel like it would be. I feel like it doesn't fit. I'll say it's a real name. I'm not sure though.
You're right though. It's a real name, but it's a polo pony, so it's not a pit
Yep,
pony.
that would explain it.
So Punch.
I think that's a pit pony.
No, that's another polo pony from India.
Oh, okay.
So-
Okay, really wrong.
No, that's fine. You didn't get it really wrong.
It's a pony. It's still a pony.
Yeah,
It's a pony.
Ken.
Ken.
He's just Ken.
That sounds more like a polo pony.
No, that's a real pit pony from Nottinghamshire.
Who names their pit pony Ken?
I think that's a great pit pony name
It's a great
personally.
pit pony name. You'll like the one you get, Joe.
Joe, ooh. I really hope that's a real pit pony name, so I'm going to say yes.
It is a real pit pony from Nottinghamshire.
Thank God.
Princess.
Princess. I don't know. I'm going to say no.
No, you're right. That's not a pit pony. I made that one up. Steve.
Why do I keep getting the right? Okay. I'm gonna. If you gamble enough on the same thing, you don't necessarily get it right. However, that's some cost fallacy. I'm going to say it's another polo pony.
No, it's a pit pony. Again, from Nottinghamshire. Robbie.
Robbie. I'm going to say no.
Robbie is a pit pony from Wales. And last one for you, Johnny.
I'm going to say that is a pit pony.
It's not a pit pony. I made that one up.
A lot of person names in there. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, no, and me neither. I think my favourite definitely has to be. I do like Ken and
Ken's
Steve.
great.
Steve is my favourite.
So obviously with mining being such a big part of kind of the heritage around here, we've literally barely scratched the surface of everything that there is here.
The irony.
Yeah. Like we have another stack of notes on the table over there that we haven't even begun to mention. But I was wondering if everybody has like a favourite thing maybe that they liked learning about or something they'd like to learn more about.
I liked hearing about the last pit pony.
Yeah, I
thought
really
that was
enjoyed the pit ponies.
Yeah,
as
that was
well.
really
That's why I
nice.
did them.
That was a nice story.
Yeah, I liked researching all the names, and I also found out there's some pit pony's still alive. I know I said that one was the last pit pony, but that was the last working pit pony. The pit ponies, I think, as a breed, are still active.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple, I can't remember where they are. I think they might be in Yorkshire, but you can go visit them. So
I guess I wouldn't really call this obscure. I did enjoy learning about this. It was actually banned in stadiums.
You might want to say what it is in case somebody's not watching the video.
Football ratchet. Otherwise known as lots of names, one of them being noisemaker. Unsurprisingly, it was banned in football games in the 1970s due to I apologise, hooliganism, which was going on at the time. So I guess that was a bit interesting to learn about. I did go away from mining. I got distracted, but I'm back. I got back to it.
Personally, I live in an old pit village in one of the old pit houses, so I really find it interesting to learn about, like, what would the village have looked like 50, 100 years ago? What would the people have been like? I just think learning about the communities themselves is really fascinating. So, yeah.
I think in terms of stuff I'd like to learn more about, I think the different jobs in the mines is something I'd like to delve into a bit, because obviously my granddad was an electrician. I feel like yes, I'm going to say that. But we all know what the electricians do. They do the lights, they do the lifts. I think they probably have lifts. But I don't know a lot about the rest of the jobs there, so it might be nice to delve into something like that next time.
I think I'd probably like to learn a bit more about the strike. It's something I've always found quite interesting, and I think I'd like to at some point do like a proper deep dive into that one and learn a bit about it. So
I think even though it's a bit sad, I'd like to know a little bit more about the disasters and know if there's like any survivors and things like that. What else you can find out?
Yeah. Anything you'd like to learn more about, or are you a bit mined out?
I reckon I can come up with something.
I think you should put the helmet on for the
I'm not putting the helmet on. That's staying there and it's not moving until this finishes. Okay.
If you won't, I will.
That about rounds up for the end of this episode. Thank you everybody for coming along and doing some research. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.